Welcome back to the Three Parallels Podcast with your host, the Dr. Jason Branch, where we discover who we were, embrace who we are, and make room for who we're trying to become. On today's show, family, I'm telling y'all, I'm bringing family. And when y'all know, when I bring family, we have a good time. So, who I'm bringing in today is a black female counselor, education counselor, educator, counselor, philanthropist, influencer, mentor. She does everything, business owner, real estate. Listen, when I say everything, she does it. Okay. So I would like to introduce you all to Dr. Sherritta Hughes. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Branch. It's an honor to be here.
Yes, indeed. It's a pleasure to have you on. And I just want to give the world, give the listeners you, because you've always been a gem to me in this profession, who you
Mhm.
are and what you do. And also, a little caveat, I had Bridget Nunn on the show a little while back, and she spoke your name. She spoke so highly of you, of how influential you were for her life and her career. And on this show, anytime you shout somebody out, I want them on the show. And that's how we got you here. And I'm like, Dr. Hughes, yeah, that's my dog. I got Doctor. Come on, let's go. Let's get you on the show. So that's how we got here. So I really
Cool.
appreciate you deciding to jump in and jump on.
Nice, nice, nice.
So I'm
Appreciate it.
curious. We're curious. What's the story as a black woman who's at a very high level doing all the things and some? How did you get here? And specifically in the counseling profession, what was your journey to get to this place?
Um, number one, it was a long one.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
it was long, and I guess I mean it's kind of multiple context. Like, so I mean, like it was long in terms of time, I feel like. And it was also long in terms of a lot going on across the journey, right? And
Mm,
so I broke it up though. I didn't just go straight through.
mm-hmm,
So I think that's what makes me say it was a long journey in terms of time. And then relative to the a lot going on with it across the journey, that's
mm-hmm,
where it's like, okay, here's this barrier, here's this sidetrack, here's this rerouting, but still getting to the same destination maybe. And I think what makes me think that it was taking that long from those two ways for me is because I don't know if I really knew where I was going. I just followed my gut, followed
mm.
directions from people who were mentoring me, and following my experiences and where they took me.
Wow. Wow. I love it. I love it. So, what piqued your interest? And I love to hear about the journey because it sounds very similar to mine. I didn't know
Mhm.
either. I was just figuring it out
Yeah,
by doing it. So I'm glad to hear your story because a lot of the listeners they may be on a different trajectory as well and have a hard time
yeah.
embracing it or accepting it because of the beliefs
Hmm.
of what it needs to be. And you kind of just give permission by your life and your success that we can do it in different ways. So
Right.
within this profession with counseling, counselor education, as you
Hmm.
know, for many people of color, specifically black folks, we need it the most and go the least. So how did you overcome that barrier of not only, I'm interested in this profession, but I'm going to go into this profession and work towards getting at the highest level to give back to the community. So what made you decide this career path?
Um, hmm. The career path was always mental health, like to be in some form of doing therapy with people. What
Mm-hmm.
type of therapy, I didn't know. And I guess when I say what the type, I mean, I didn't know if I was going to be in the hospital setting. I didn't know if I was going to be a psychologist. I didn't even know that the counseling discipline existed. That wasn't in a world that I was aware of, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was so big and like, oh, you want to be a psychologist because, if, adults would ask you, so what do you want to be when you grow up? And it's like, I want to be a therapist, but, a psychologist, whatsoever. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. But at any rate, how I started figuring all of that out was starting in the community, though. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't just start like somewhere thinking about being at the top of anything. I'm a grassroots type person, so I've always engaged in that way of my block, my community, my neighborhood. That's how my family operates and moves. So I just fell into that. And they're not all, but a number of them are educators, right? or not even just being in education, but that's like K through 12, I mean, but they were also engaged in community work,
Mm-hmm.
activism, and things like that. And so I knew, and like my mom was like somewhat Black Panther-ish, you know. So that's where we come from,
Yeah.
and we're, HBCU grads, things like that. I don't know, it just worked. And then readers. We were readers. My aunt, her whole like garage was her library. And I mean, it
Wow.
was like a 2 or 3 car garage. And
Wow.
she didn't keep the cars in there. It was books.
Mm.
And I used to go from New Jersey to Alabama in the summers,
Mm-hmm.
and I would have to go to school in the summer. And I'm like, oh my God. But it was so different from Jersey
Mm-hmm.
school, Alabama school,
Yeah. So
right?
if
And
you
specifically Birmingham. So,
So we got to talk about it because
yeah.
you and I both have these different roots and backgrounds. Like me being born and raised in the Midwest in Ohio, and I would spend summers in Alabama because that's where my dad was in
Yeah.
Tuscaloosa, right down the street. So,
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
so we have these parallel universes that we live in, and I'm curious to hear your experience of experiencing both parts of Jersey and Alabama, and just that cultural difference between the two. If you could share more about
Mhm.
that.
As I grew to know, of course, you don't think, oh, what are the cultural differences? I'm like in elementary school, but I knew that it was a more of a rugged fun down south
Mm-hmm.
in terms of my aunt was just like, okay, go outside and go make friends. And I'm like, I don't know these people down here. I want to go home. I have friends in Jersey.
Yeah.
I don't even want to be here in the summertime, but my mom needed a break.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, and the difference in New Jersey, it was just like people knocking on your door, hey, can Sherritta come outside and play?
Yeah.
Right? I didn't
Yeah.
have that. So I kind of had to make it happen when it came to play and fun down south. But I loved it. I came to
Yeah.
like find that that's what helped me to navigate even my adult years later. Because it's like
Mm,
I didn't just stay in the house, I went out and found fun.
yeah.
So I went out and found a way. It wasn't just something given to me, but also still taking into account how I learned in New Jersey too. It was just like those kids coming to my door. I know there's somebody that's a kid right here. Can she come out and play? It was so different in those two worlds, but they make so much meaning for me now. And so being down there and going to Alabama from New Jersey, it was different in terms of school. Oh my
Mm,
God. So I might have been in a lower grade than my aunt was teaching, but I knew all of the work that they were already doing.
yeah. Yeah.
That was interesting. I was
Okay.
like, I felt like, oh, I'm like a Rhodes Scholar. Not really. Not at all, because I'm a total C student when it was, during that time of schooling. So it was just like I felt kind of good about that for myself. But then I was like, geez, what's really going? I'm helping people. It's
Yeah.
like, say, for instance, I'm in like maybe third grade, I'm helping fourth and fifth graders.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I'm like, this is crazy. So she taught though, um, special ed, but she put me in my own class, like regular ed
Yeah.
classes. And it
Mm-hmm.
was so interesting in just how the kids were, way different, way.
If you don't mind, please share more. How different were they compared to you or just
Mm,
your experiences?
they were just as interested in me and where I was coming from as I was interested in them. But they
Mm-hmm.
weren't afraid to say it. I think in the North, it's like I have to say they and a we, there's these airs, right? This is like we're gonna play hardcore. We're gonna, act like we already know it all. We don't care for you. You want to be in our group. There's that air in
Mm-hmm.
Jersey. There's a little different type of attitude,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a more of a higher level of confidence, whether it be false or not. It's still there. And down south, it was just down home.
Yes.
We
Yes.
played outside, we sweat, and nobody cared. You
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? It was
Mm-hmm.
jeans ripped, before they started selling them ripped, and it was just play in the dirt, and I did notice that though at the core though. black, because I was only around like black kids though
Yeah.
in Alabama. So that
Hmm.
was, I guess she taught in like a very black school district. I don't want to say lower income, but it was across the sides of the track, right?
Gotcha.
It
Hmm.
was pretty deep in terms of I saw so much poverty and I
Hmm.
was not used to seeing that in New Jersey. But even through starting off at a HBC in the South, like in Montgomery at Alabama State, when we would go out to the quote unquote country, I saw outhouses. I mean, this is
Yeah.
96.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
saw that kind of living as if Montgomery was in a bubble in the
Hmm.
90s, how and the rest of the world had shifted and evolved. And I don't know, it was hard to see that. It was
Yeah.
hard, but I had been seeing it for so long, so I didn't think it was anything new because
Yeah.
I was like, I saw that when I was growing up in the summers down south, and then was always grateful, maybe more so when I went back home to Jersey.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, do you feel as though those experiences all the way to college and beyond has impacted you personally and professionally at this stage of your life?
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure. I think it did so and does continuously now because I'm always looking to learn more about my roots.
Hmm.
I want to know more about those roots, so that's why I was like, I got to get back there. I'm always getting back there. I lived in Montgomery. I lived in Huntsville. Went to Alabama A&M as well for graduate school. So, for my master's. So it's like I was always going back because I still had this gap in my cultural identity in
Hmm.
terms of those types of blood roots, I want to say, right?
Mm.
And so I think culture can be broken down or compartmentalized into so many different pieces that the blood roots was like, who's my family,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
How did they track from Alabama to Jersey to Chicago to Detroit, to LA. I have family out there, LA. To I know the Boston and I knew Philly because I know those family members, but what about like during like Reconstruction? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And things like that, that era, right after slavery was so-called abolished and things like that. So I just always needed to know more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's incredible. That's incredible.
Hmm.
And now being on this side, it's so interesting, our parallels, because I had the same experience of, the culture, the heart, the bloodline is in
Yeah.
Alabama. And I have both sides of my family, mom and dad, born and raised in Alabama, but
Mm.
they all transitioned to the Midwest, Ohio, Michigan, Detroit as well, Chicago. So it's like
Mhm.
these parallels. And I think, the migration from our background and our roots and ancestry, it's all similar, where these parallels that we live in. And regardless of the background, look where we are. We were able to overcome
Sure.
and
Yeah.
work to get to this place. So, being in this place, how has things been for you, and especially giving back and serving our community in different ways, especially in mental health and counseling?
Hmm. Um, hmm, that's a really good question. I think it started just by me working in the community, like Parks and Rec. I worked in Parks and Rec as a lifeguard forever and a day. So that was like the thing. They're like, she's black and she can swim, like competition swimming. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah. And I was always the only one in those spaces. But then
Mm,
when I in New Jersey, that was. Down south, it was like, no, you're not. You're just one of us, right?
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
wasn't this anomaly or anything. There were lots of us who swam. There are lots of us who knew how to lifeguard and things like that. But lifeguarding brought something more for me because there was this huge community pool in the middle of a project. And I was like,
Mm,
oh my gosh, I'm out there every day. It's like 100 degrees. But I found myself like connecting with the families,
mm-hmm.
children, wanting to know more about them as I was in school too. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm in school, I'm also working in the community. There was always, like you said, there's this parallel. So for me, my parallels were always engaging at a deeper level and connection with community and with people that look like me, right? And
Mm.
so I didn't ever want to feel the disconnect just because I was getting this education that was different from them, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they weren't able to, but I was like, you know what? That's not going to be the excuse. I want to be able to get my education and then bring it to them
Yeah.
because I don't want them to have any non-exposure, so to speak, right? So I wanted it to do what I could do, right? I can't pay for anybody to go to school at that time. That wasn't even in my purview. So I was like, well, what can I do? I can expose them to the books and what I was learning. But
Yeah.
that's why HBCU was so important because I got to learn more about the African diaspora. Like
Wow.
my history and my identity started before slavery. And
Mhm.
so I wanted to know what that looks like, what it felt like and also bring that into the mix of mental health care
Mhm.
because I was just giving a speech a couple of weeks ago. It's like I was never on page 54. I use that as just a metaphor for my students and myself. Like if I'm not on page 54, well, where am I? Right?
Mm.
I'm in those other contexts and those other publications that the colleges or universities would never even tap into, especially in counseling,
Mhm.
especially in counselor training programs. So, when you look at literature and research, we're always looked at from a deficit approach, where it's like,
Mm.
wait a minute, if I'm so-called represented in other spaces where I'm not a deficit, but there's a strength base where there were like dynasties, kings and queens and things like that. And the environment in healthcare and understanding the brain and neuroscience, it's like, wait a second. Well, where does that come into play? Where is the parallel? So I always engaged in going to the library. I was like in the library when I finally got my mind right. I'm in the library, like, this is my space. I love it
Mm.
here.
Yeah.
And it was calm, it was soothing, it was quiet. I had my headphones on. I'm a 90s hip hop person to my core.
Mhm.
So I would be listening and I started just understanding more so about just even language and how we put things together and then being able to communicate that back to the people who I really wanted to touch. I
Gotcha.
don't know.
Yeah.
I'm going all around, but
No, you're
hopefully it's
good.
making sense.
This it makes perfect sense to me, and to the
Okay.
listeners. If it don't make sense, do your research because do your research. Everything will make sense. So with that, and I love hearing the story, the humble beginnings, and understanding culture and ancestry, and looking at things from a new and different lens based off of you doing the research. And
Mhm.
oftentimes we don't do that, and we just take the information given to us as fact, as truth. And for you, it's
Right.
like I need to find truth within myself. So even in that journey, and especially going to two HBCUs for a bachelor's and a master's, and then getting your PhD, I'm assuming at a predominantly white institution.
Correct.
How did you navigate that world? Number one, at a predominantly white institution. Number two, in a doctoral program. Number three, in a profession that's dominated by white men and white women. How did you navigate that world and survive and thrive and get through it? And even to get to a place where you are now, where you're not jaded or feeling kind of way, but you're using your knowledge, your experience to serve. How did you
Mm.
do it?
The first thing I think about is that I'm like 99.8% sure that my path was already ordained for me.
Ooh,
Um,
ooh.
I do because it just fell in line, even though I felt the struggle of it. But I don't think anything happened before it was time. And
Yeah.
the way that it happened was, I know it might be cliche, but to say like, oh, that was just God, that was God, but I really do feel that things just mapped out together for me and it was bigger than me. It
Mm,
wasn't just me. And I'm not gonna be overly confident in saying, oh, I put in the work. I did. I put in a lot of work, but I also didn't know a lot of the work that I was doing and needed help.
mm,
Right. And I couldn't go to my friends and family because they did not understand the track that I was on. They're like,
yeah.
I know you'll get it. I don't know how to help you, but I'm sure you're going to figure it out. And
Mm,
some days it was just like, oh my God, what is this?
mhm,
And
mhm,
in a literal sense, God, what is this? Right. And
mm,
so just reaching to a higher power because I didn't think that And it proved to be that, and a lot of my family and friends could not help me,
Mm.
because number one, still our ideas around mental health care is still fluid in our communities. Um, but then the way that I took time before each degree, I didn't just go straight through. I took several years in between to get to where I am. So I needed that experience out there in the world of work, work-life balance, having relationships, networking with people, and just understanding the system, right?
Ooh,
And systemic issues. I was
ooh.
experiencing them. So as I went, it was almost, I used to compare it to like a video game. It's like every level is going, you're only getting there because you beat the previous level, but it's
Mm.
going to be tougher. It's going to be more challenging because that's just the way it's supposed to be. That's what I
Wow.
was kind of thinking. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you're only at that next level because you got the tools that you gained from the previous level. So now let's see how you use them, right?
Wow.
And so I always even make sure that even in assignments for classes that I teach, create a toolbox from everything that you're getting at this level so that you can now use it. And that flips to even teaching therapeutic skills too. All the information or what's communicated to you as a therapist from your client is going to be a tool that you can now in turn use to help them and support them. They're the experts that you need to help facilitate your process with them. That's what I always engaged in, and but that's what I use for my life too.
Mm.
So, going to the PWI, it might sound strange, maybe for like, oh, you went from an HBCU to a PWI, but it was still something that I was given in terms of a God's purpose because my whole cohort were African American women. So
Mm.
at a PWI, and I was like, and I and my friends, colleagues, cohort, we're all three of those together till this day.
Mm.
As each one came into the room to meet everyone on that like first day of school, we're like, if
Yeah.
another Black person walks in here, something's up. And a woman
Mm.
at that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we were just wondering, are they doing an experiment on us? Like, what's really going on? How many cohorts do we know at a
Hmm.
PWI who are
Absolutely.
all African American and women,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
What was that supposed to look like? Built on what we already had in terms of like a preconceived notion on how it would be, right?
Absolutely.
And so it was really interesting. So I don't know that I had the same track as other people at a PWI where maybe they were the only person of, that was
Yeah.
Black or African American in their cohort or fit some type of racialized minority, right,
Yeah.
in their
Yeah.
group.
Oh man, that's
So it's a
powerful.
little different.
Yeah, that's very different because I've never heard of that until you just. I've never heard of anyone who
Yeah,
had that
we always
experience.
play around with the idea we should write on this. It was different because we already know that that research within the group there are more differences than between different groups, right?
Uh-huh. Hmm.
So we still had differences. We still had arguments. We still had discourse. We still didn't get along every day.
Yeah.
So there were things, but I do think at the crux of it, we were still able to support each other with those, I want to say, implicit ideas, right?
Hmm.
So those
Hmm.
implicit ways of supporting your sister
Yeah.
came into play, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
of course, there was, maybe one or two that I gravitated more so, or those that gravitated towards me. So we still clicked up sometimes too.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
so you're still gonna have those normal um ways of that behaviors. I mean, that groups behave, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love all of this. I really appreciate you sharing your journey, your story, especially for the listeners who may not be aware of any of these levels, these arenas, these ideas. And I want to dive into another space because you're aware of it, you're knowledgeable about it, and you've done the research
Hmm.
related to systems. You brought up systems earlier. Could you talk more about these different systems and ways that you were able to navigate the systems or ideas that you have for the listeners to navigate these different systems? Because I agree with you, they're not changing. They haven't changed and they're not going to change. So, how did you do it, and how can you encourage other people to do the same?
The systems that I encountered more so on a conscious level, community, politics, education, and healthcare.
Mm.
I want to say those.
Okay.
And then the within group stuff, right?
Okay.
Or within cultural things, I mean. So
Hmm.
those are the systems that I think. And I realized what I learned about each one of those systems, that there a lot of people that operate in them navigate them in ways of being colonized still.
Mm.
Um, like there's this internal colonizer that some of us people of so-called color have.
Ooh, whoa, time out. Wait. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. So, real quick, for
Okay.
the listeners, this is an opportunity to get your journals out, get your notebooks out, because we're finna go somewhere. I don't know where we're going, but we're finna go
I don't.
somewhere. And it's important for you to write this stuff down, whether it makes sense to you right now or not. Please know where we're about to go can be life changing information, depends on how you digest it. So what you're sharing is so powerful, so big, because a lot of times we're in these systems and don't even know it. So you're talking about the layers within the system. So please
Yeah.
continue your thoughts about this, especially for people of color navigating these systems, but navigating them based off of what they think they have to do versus who we actually are and what we get to choose to do. So please continue.
Yeah, and I'm freestyling too. I didn't prepare anything. I don't have notes. I'm not reading from anything because I said if I don't know it, they were like if you can explain it simply, you don't know it well enough,
Ooh.
right? And so I said I'm just gonna go into this interview with you. So freestyling, so bear with me. So those systems when I say about having to learn about them from a conscious level, let me know that a lot of us still have this internal colonizer because we reflect it in the practices that we use when it comes to teaching, when it comes to therapy, especially if we're still using the same type of textbooks that we used years ago, or
Mhm.
that we use the same as other people who are not in a so-called minority group or minority or racialized type group, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so, or that they are not marginalized or they don't come from an oppressive type condition, right? We're
Yeah.
all utilizing the same learning material. If you don't extend and explore outside of those same textbooks, you're just repeating the same things that we've always done.
Ooh, ooh, my
Is
goodness.
that,
I I wasn't even ready. I was I know the listener's not ready because I
Jason?
wasn't even ready. This is so big on so many levels because to make it even more, to connect the dots even more, it's what I hear you saying is for a lot of people of color, marginalized communities that move further with their education and become educators and they're teaching the information, they're still teaching in the way it was taught to them, which could be very monolithic, where it's one sided. This is the only way, meaning what Freud said is the only way, not recognizing that none of us who are people of color look like Freud. We also not doing coke like Freud. But anyway, we're not
Mhm.
these are the things that's not really talked about, but you and
Sure.
I specifically, we don't mind talking about it because the information is out there and it's true. You know, these are human beings doing human things who
Hmm.
happens to be theorists and pioneers of the things that we do, and many of them not even from here, not even from the
Yeah.
US. So you're talking about the things that usually we're not allowed to talk about, or we're not given permission to talk about, or we don't have the authority to talk about it. But the reality is, for you and I specifically,
Hmm.
we do.
Hmm.
And having that authority, we can
Yeah.
decide what we teach and what we don't within these classrooms. And it sounds like you've taken advantage of that to start
Yeah.
teaching in a different way, which connects the dots of you connecting with Bridget. And Bridget happens to be a white woman who was
Hmm.
able to see things from a different lens. So please know
Yeah.
the work you're
Yeah.
doing, the work you have done changes
Hmm.
the dynamics of how we view this profession.
Sure, sure. Yeah, because I think we are conditioned, right? And there's so many different ideas around that we don't tap into. Like, how are you perpetual, am I saying it right?
Perpetuating. I'm with you.
Perpetuating. How are we perpetuating those same systems that we talk against,
Come
right?
on. Ooh.
If you're not doing anything differently and
Yes.
not just doing it in word, but doing it in deed. right? And so
Mm,
in your actions, like what are
yeah.
you actually doing? And then what type of metric system are you utilizing to know that you're doing something different, right? And
Mm,
so I think we have to engage in those ways with ourselves, with our cultural identity, and then with our students and our clients, right? I teach that. And I realize that, wait a minute, I am doing a lot of the things that, in terms of teaching and practicing therapy, in ways that I was not really working. There's something wrong with it, basically, is what I was
yeah.
thinking, but I didn't know what words to use to communicate that. I just
Yeah.
felt it in my gut. Like there's an intuition that I think we do have if we listen to it, that, hey, change the paradigm, shift it. Shift the
Yes.
paradigm, meaning shift the theories of how you even navigate what you teach, meaning use some kind of pedagogical process that helps you set up a framework that is different from what maybe you were taught
Ooh,
so that you can now know, right? And so I started reading different ideas around critical pedagogy. What is that? I
yeah.
don't know if I really learned that in my doc program.
Yeah.
Actually, I know I didn't learn that in my doc program, right? And so if there's a critical pedagogy, what is that? Where did that start? What does that mean? If there's culturally responsible approaches to teaching and doing therapy, why aren't they parallel in our classrooms
Yes.
from our faculty to our students? And our students are not just students, because I wasn't just a student, I was a whole adult.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Coming in with a lot of lived experiences that I was sometimes afraid to bring to the table because I didn't see it expressed or paraphrased in some type of way in the textbooks we were using. I don't think Freud ever worked with someone who looked like us.
I'm
And
willing to
if
bet money. Hold on,
Freud
real quick.
did,
I'm willing to bet money. If anybody can let us know otherwise, shoot us a message, let us know. But I would agree with you 100%. And I find it
mhm.
hard to see anything different. That's just,
Sure,
our
sure.
perspective.
And so we have to understand, like, who are you actually considering the expert at something? Who are these theorists? It's like, so that's from that book. It's going to come from that author's lens.
Yeah.
Let's check out some other authors who might have a different lens based on the logistics, right? When I say that, it's like, well, if you say that an author's lens comes out in their writing, let's look at another author who is different from that previous author and see what their lens teaches us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that means we have to differentiate it even all the way based on the reflection, their race, their ethnicity, their nationality, their status and identity in the world, right?
Yeah.
Even though it's a shared society or maybe
Yeah.
even international, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so pedagogy of the oppressed, right?
Yes.
Looking into those things, bell hooks,
Mm-hmm.
right? Different people. It's so many, the list goes on,
Yeah.
when you're wanting to think of who these people are. But I think because we get so conditioned of counseling discipline is still the newest kid on the block. When you look
Mm-hmm.
at mental health practitioners from other disciplines, psychology, psychiatry. There are so many of us, African American men and women, right, who have many intersecting identities that are in psychiatry, that are in psychology. We need to overlap those disciplines to pull from them because they
Yes.
do inform us,
Oh man,
right?
powerful, powerful, powerful. So let me
Yeah.
ask. This is so good. This is so good. I'm curious. How did you gain the confidence to be in the classroom to teach the way that you feel as though is best? And I say that because for many people of color and for marginalized communities who are teaching, I don't care what level
Mhm.
you're on,
Yeah.
it's easy to repeat what was given. It's easy to follow suit. It's easy to, I'm trying to get tenure, so I'm gonna stay in line. And it sounds like for you, you don't teach that way. So how did you get this confidence to teach the way you feel as though it's best? And it's valid as well because you have evidence, you have research to back it up. Uh,
Hmm.
where did you get this confidence to teach in this way and not be fearful of what could happen to me or by this institution, by this system, by
Hmm.
doing something different than I was taught and told to do? How did you do that?
Hmm. I think that's something that was always in me, right? I always had this spirit of my first book report was on Fannie Lou Hamer.
How old were you?
I don't know, elementary school, but I so remember that her fight.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So I tap into my ancestors. I've always tapped into my ancestors because I can't always just look around a room and gain confidence in a reflection of seeing myself.
Yeah.
So I had to do it, myself.
Hmm.
And it wasn't that I learned to do that myself. My mom told me to. It's
Yeah.
just like, I'm not going to be there all the time. You need to
Yeah.
do this yourself. I can help you. I can.
Yeah.
But if I keep helping you, you're not going to learn how to do it.
Wow.
So I took those kinds of lessons and applied them, and I still do. So it's not that I don't know how to ask for help, but I know how and when to ask for help,
Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
when it comes to teaching, I am not caught up in ivory tower-ish things.
Hmm.
I wanted to go for tenure and I was set to go for tenure. And I was like, you know what? I'm only saying that. I want to go for tenure. That's my goal. I want to get a tenure track position. Why? And
Mm.
where does that line of thinking even come from?
Yeah.
If I
That's
get that, what will that do for me in my
mm.
career, in my spirit, and what I'm wanting to do with my clients? My clients will not care, I don't think, if I have tenure.
These are facts. They don't.
The
They don't.
university might not even care.
True story. True story.
So, what am I really doing here?
Wow. Wow.
And once I realized the institution and where I was, I started having issues, not outside with me, because I was starting to learn more about indigenous populations. I worked at a Catholic university.
Hmm.
There were things that were surfacing that just didn't sit well with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Knowing the Catholic faith, that's actually Christianity. People don't realize like that's not a part. There's not
Yeah.
Catholic, there's not Christianity, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so, and then you have all these different things coming up like, how do I teach somewhere that I'm figuring out about myself that are not aligned with my values? I don't know how to sit there and not fight for something for people who are, I don't care if you're not in the classroom, they still need fighting for, right?
Mm.
I didn't see a lot of people who look like me amongst the students that I was working with. And then
Hmm.
the students that did, even in undergrad, they would still find themselves coming to my office wanting to just talk. I
Yeah.
had students crying, like, I've never had a Black professor.
Hmm.
And they were crying when they told me this. And I'm like, stop, you're going to make me cry. And I don't even know why yet. But this has some type of meaning. And I
Yes.
don't know what it is yet. But I
Mm.
kept coming across that. And so it's just like all these different things that were not dichotomies. They
Yeah.
were something that was formulating a fuller composite of where I needed to go and see myself. So I was fearful.
Yeah.
I started becoming more fearful of what I was becoming conscious of. So it's
Yeah.
like, and once I'm fearful, I'm gonna fight. I'm not,
Yes.
fight, freeze, or flight,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? I'm fighting. So
Yes.
I'm the fighter and I'm going to fight for what I want, for what I need, and for other people, right? And so because I'm working within a system and I know I'm a part of it, I don't want to get recruited into the same racisms and other isms that we are operating from in the systems that we're in. And higher ed is a system with
Yes.
systemic problems that have been consistent over time. So
Yes.
I got out of the school. I got out of a tenure track position. I still teach part-time somewhere, but I'm not in a full-time position, so I can navigate the waters of being a counselor, an educator, and a supervisor, right? And so I have those tripartite career, you know, composites within what we do, but I shaped it in a way that is conducive to me and the people I want to help.
You are out here preaching and teaching. Okay. Please know that. Where's the offering plate? I need a cash app for the podcast because
So
you are
silly. You're making
you
me
are
laugh.
giving so much. And
Oh,
it's so many levels and layers to it. You're
it
talking
is. It is.
and again, we're in these same spaces. We're in the parallel universe because I'm on the other side of the country doing the same thing, because of my beliefs and my background and culture
Sure.
and investigating this stuff and not taking what's given to us at face value, not doing that.
Hmm.
So I love what you're doing. I appreciate you sharing it. And you're making an impact in so many people's lives because of who you are. And that's just one aspect. In
Hmm.
addition, is what you do. So who you are is one thing. You said deed, okay? Who you are is
Yes.
one thing. What you're
Yeah.
doing is a whole nother thing. And I commend you. I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful you're a part of my community. You're a part of my tribe. And I love the fact that I can now share you with anybody who's
Mm.
here listening. So for those who are listening, if this has been a blessing to you, don't keep this information to yourself. Challenge it. Go deep within the layers. If you're a professor and you still doing things the colonizer way, here's an opportunity. There's two professors right now
Yeah.
who are doing it our own way. And I feel as though we're able to because number one, we're doing it. We're doing it.
Hmm.
We're not talking about it. We're doing it. So let's switch gears because we was in the basement. We was
Sure.
hanging out in the basement. Let's go hang out in the living room. So I'm curious to
Okay.
know, out of all your lived experiences from Jersey to Alabama to all these different things, I'm curious to know, what have you learned about yourself and what have you learned about other people on your
Mhm.
journey of life?
All right. Starting with other people, because I've also lived in Baltimore and DC. Those were some of my favorite places, honestly. Just as a sidebar. Um, um, I've learned about other people that people are gonna, at the end of the day, be out for self. And I'm not saying that from a positive or a negative way. It's just what it is.
Hmm.
And people are going to do what it takes to survive sometimes.
That's right.
And even though it might not always be in a very helpful way, but
Hmm.
more hindering. And when I realized that, I feel like I probably since myself moving away from those people because
Mm.
I'm such a person that wants to give.
Yeah.
I'm that person that will put the mask on for self before helping others, of course, yes. But I notice it. I
Hmm.
notice more when it comes to what is this person really out to do? What do they
Hmm.
really want? And if it's something that's really more for self-consuming, or I don't know the wording maybe around that, but if it's only for them and it's not to help community, I'm kind of gone.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me ask this. We're going in a different direction now
Hmm.
because of what you brought up. And this is for the listeners and for me, because of who we are, just being passionate and want to help, want to serve other people. And when you
Hmm.
come in contact with someone who may even look like you, who doesn't have that
Yeah.
same passion, and it's hurtful because there's an expectation we have. How do you juggle or navigate being able to disconnect and move on or move away versus continuing to go back, expecting them to be somebody they're not?
Number one, don't have that expectation.
Ooh, plain and
Enjoy
simple.
them for who they are. Enjoy or appreciate for them for who they are.
Yeah, that's real.
That's it.
Mm,
And if they do more, they do more. If they do less, they do less, but they are being who they are.
yeah.
And if there's not a way that I can help them, that's also okay. Sometimes it's
Mm,
just being with a person and accepting them and
yeah.
appreciating it for what it or them for who they are. That's it.
Wow.
Because you
That's
have
good.
to learn from yourself. Like, why do you keep going back?
Ooh, ooh. Did not say you was preaching. Did not say
Yeah.
that.
Well,
You being a therapist too. You being like you bringing all those personalities, you bringing all those skills to this podcast, and I'm thankful.
yeah.
Ooh, that's good. So, what did you
Yeah.
learn about you?
So for me, I learned that sometimes I will help at my own detriment. And where I am a yes person and I've been working on the year of no for like several years and it hasn't worked yet. And but I am better at making my no mean no,
Okay.
and I don't feel the need or compelled to give this disclaimer.
Hmm.
Right? And so
Yeah.
now it's no and keep it moving and I don't feel bad. When I say yes, I will do it. But some of the stuff about me when I still say yes, I do get overwhelmed because I've said yes to several, projects or several things that people are wanting in different areas of my life, and then I get the bad part of that where it's like now I'm frustrated, now I'm short with people, now I'm
Yeah.
not calling back, now I'm not returning text messages and I'm because I'm in a bad mood because of what I said into play. So I
Mm,
did learn that about myself. I only need 1 to 3 projects at a time, not
mm,
6 or 7.
that's
Once I
good.
get to that, those if I'm getting to 3, it's time to shut it down.
That's growth. That's
Yeah.
evolution. I love it.
Yeah, yep. And I need a journal. I carry a journal in a really good gel pen everywhere with me in my book bag. I've never been this person into material things, so I got a really great book bag, shoulder bag, whatever. And if it's enough to carry my journal, it's like, you know what? And like if you and I are out somewhere and I have that book out because I know that the people that I'm hanging around are going to feed me knowledge, right? And so
Mm,
because I already have that in the back of my mind, I want to be able to capture it. And I'm not talking about taking pictures or anything. I forget to take pictures. I am not the picture person. I hate taking pictures. I don't want to be that person. I just want to be in my moment and I'd rather write things down so I can just have that to go look back at because Jason taught me that. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Or
that's good.
somebody else taught me that and I just have it and I was
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that
That's
makes sense. It makes sense.
that's what I
So
learned about myself. Yeah, I enjoy it.
I love it. I think it's great. And to the listeners, this is a breadcrumb. I hope y'all are paying attention to the breadcrumbs. The breadcrumbs are the things in front of us that we can eat that's usually hidden in plain sight. You're dropping bombs, you're dropping gems, you're dropping breadcrumbs, Dr. Hughes. I love it. Next question. I'm curious to know, we're curious to know, what would you say is the proudest moment or proudest accomplishment in your life so far?
The proudest accomplishment in my life. I'm laughing at this because I always said I want to be able to walk to work and not make it feel like work. Because I
Come
grew up
on.
walking to school and hated going. So I have an office space that's less than a mile from my house and I walk there.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I have 2 locations. And I'm not just an employer or entrepreneur, right? Because that's what
Mhm.
we give that so much like precedence. We give
Yeah.
that this accolade. Oh, she's a black woman entrepreneur, she's doing her thing, whatever. But I'm an employer who employs other people who look like me too.
Wow. Powerful.
I
Oh
want to
my
be
goodness.
that. I want to help people. I want to get us in,
Yeah.
right? And I want
Yeah.
to help you. You don't have to stay. If you want to design and build your own practice, I'll help you do that. I do want you to stay. But if you can just be an offshoot of
Yeah.
this, but still have your own thing and stay connected with me so that we have a network now, as
Uh-huh.
in a constellation, I want that to happen.
Yeah.
But so those things, like, so having an office that I can walk to
Uh-huh.
and be there in a day, like, I love it here. I love my
Yeah.
space that I've created. And it's nice. It's nice to
Yeah.
be able to do that. And I think that's a simple pleasure.
I love it. I love it. So, a couple more questions and we're going to get you out of here because you're a busy
Okay.
man. You got shit to do. So, the next question is, what is a word, phrase, memory, or moment that has stuck with you personally or professionally?
Personally, or okay. A moment. Am a moment in the profession?
Period. So,
Oh.
word, phrase, memory, moment, whatever it is that stuck with you that you want to share.
Okay, so remember I told you about that Black Panther-ish type stuff?
Yes. Yes.
So there's something that I do share. I read about a lot, just our diaspora. And one of the things that I mentioned about let me see, Huey P. Newton,
Mm-hmm.
one of the co-founders of the Black Panthers. I love that they did the free lunch program. They were the first, social group not getting money from the state, local, whatever, providing free lunch in lower income communities. But he said that if we're trying to do this kind of revolution thing. It's not going to work if we don't concentrate and center on the youth. So he
Mm,
said, a youthless revolution is a useless revolution. And that was
wow.
something that I keep near and dear to me.
Powerful, powerful, powerful. What is an interesting fact about yourself or something about you that people wouldn't believe about you?
I'm a diehard Wu-Tang fan.
Oh, Wu Tang for the children, baby. We'll take it for the children.
That I mean, I'm trying to be quick because one of my favorite songs I had for my ringtone for so long is Raekwon's Cream. Cash rules everything around me. And it's not about the cash, but it's just what cash can do for you. So you always want to kind of stay hungry to go get it, but it's how you utilize it. So that's always meaningful.
Oh my goodness, you are just dropping bars out here. And please know to the listeners, the Three Parallels podcast playlist, any Wu Tang song, you know who it came from. Okay, so just know that. Last thing is on this show, I like to offer life work. Life work is a little bit different from homework. Homework, you take it home, you do it, you turn it in, you never remember it again. Life work, you take it home,
Mhm.
you do it, your life can change. So if you could offer some life work to the listeners, just one thing that they could use, they can have to create a pivot to change. What would that be?
Um, read every day.
Done.
Read every day outside of your discipline.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Powerful. I love it. I love it. So, last thing, you gave us so much. And if people want to give back to you, such as giving you flowers, whatever the case may be, how can people get in contact with you?
Let's see. Email founder at hiwinc.org. I'm on Psychology Today. And if they look up just like simple practice and Sherritta Hughes, they'll find the website on there because that's our EHR platform that we use, but they also provide us with web tools and things like that for people to outreach us so they can do that too.
Excellent. Excellent. Any final thoughts or final thoughts you want to share before we close out?
Thank you. Thank you. I didn't expect how this would be, but that's good because that's something that I just operate on, and it's great when I get to receive something. So thank you for take bringing me outside of my shell because I love operating in the background. I don't do the front thing, so thank you for pulling me away from that.
Absolutely. That's my job. That's my role. So I appreciate you as a friend, as a colleague, as a sister from another mister. Thank you for all that you do, all you have done. Please know your efforts, your work, even though it's seamless for you, it's so impactful for all. So thank you so much for being on the show and sharing you with the listeners. This has been another episode of the Three Parallels podcast with your host, the Dr. Jason Branch, where we rediscover who we were, embrace who we are, and make room for how we're trying to become. If this episode has been a blessing to you in any way, share it. Do not keep this information to yourself. If you know a person of color who's a professor who's still doing colonizer stuff, give this episode to them. Thank you. Have a great day, great morning, great evening, great life. Peace.